All right, thanks, guys. The Titans take on the Jags. 8:20 Eastern kickoff this Thursday in Jacksonville. Now, the Titans are -2, total 39.5. Not a whole lot of movement when it comes to the spread. Pretty good two-way action there on the number, although we did see a little bit of movement downward on the total. Once again, Tennessee open and remains -2. Total open 40, down to 39.5. Now, Tennessee comes into this game with a 1-1 record. They had a nice win in Week 1 over Cleveland. 30-point victory in that game. They won 43-13 in that matchup. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jacksonville, complete state of disarray right now. They're 0-2 on the year, 0-1 in the division. Ramsey wants out. Looks like he's probably going to land somewhere this week. And obviously, Nick Foles was knocked out of the game and injured. He's on the injury list indefinitely right now. So things not looking so hot for the Jaguars and their backers. Now, the Jags continue to be just pounded with injuries. A.J. Bouye is questionable with a hip. Marquise Lee questionable with a knee. Alexander questionable with a hammy. Ogboy has a hammy as well. This Jacksonville offense is putting up just 19 points per contest on average this year, and they failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10 head-to-head matchups with Tennessee. Now, this Titans defense pretty good this year. They're allowing just 16 points per contest on average. They're also 5-1 against the number in their last 6 head-to-head meetings with the Jags. Now, total-wise, both teams, their offenses averaged just 14 points combined in their divisional games this year. So I'm not foreseeing a whole lot of points in this one, but Tennessee should be able to get the job done. I'm going to go ahead and lean Titans -2 in the under 39.5 in that game. Next matchup, Lions, Eagles, 1 o'clock, Philadelphia. The Eagles are -7, total 46.5. Once again, not a whole lot of movement when it comes to the spread, although we did see a 1.5-point move downward on the total. So once again, Philadelphia open and remains -7. Total open 48, down to 46.5. Philly is 1-1 on the year, 0-1 in their non-divisional contest. They lost to Atlanta on Monday Night Football, 24-20. And that means the Eagles are now 0-2 against the spread thus far for the year. They have not covered a game in Week 1 or Week 2. Now, on the other side, Detroit, 1-0-1 on the year. They beat the Chargers last week, 13-10. Detroit is relatively healthy. Not a lot of key guys on that injury report. They're also 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games, taking on the NFC East, if you're into historical trends. Now, Philadelphia on the other side, like I said, 0-2 against the number this year. They've also failed to cover in 8 out of their last 9 games as the official home favorite. Deshaun Jackson is questionable this week with a groin. Alshon Jeffrey is doubtful with a calf injury. And what I've been noticing in professional sports is anytime you see a calf injury, a lot of times it's the Achilles. Now, we do have a slew of other guys on the injury report for Philadelphia. Malik Jackson out for the season. That happened in Week 1. Timmy Jernigan is out 4 to 6 weeks with a foot injury. And Kamu Grugier-Hill out with an MCL. Now, total-wise, this Philly defense is allowing 26 points per contest on average this year. Meanwhile, Detroit 6-0 to the over in their last 6 head-to-head meetings with Philadelphia. So these teams notoriously go over the total. I think Detroit should keep it close. Philadelphia might win it, but Detroit should keep it within a score. I'm going to lean Lions +7 and the over 46.5 in that game. Next matchup, Bengals, Bills, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Buffalo. The Bills are -6, total 44. We saw a 0.5-point move toward Buffalo and movement upward on the total. The Bills open 5.5 up to 6. Total open 42 up to 44. Buffalo's 2-0 on the year, 2-0 against the number in those games. They're also 1-0 against the AFC. They're holding their opponents to just 15 points per contest. Now, Cincinnati on the other side, they are winless on the year, 0-2 straight up, 0-2 against non-divisional opponents. They lost 41-17 to San Francisco last week. Now, Cincy is full of injuries themselves. They have A.J. Green out indefinitely. Cordy Glenn is questionable in concussion protocol. Carl Lawson questionable with a hamstring, and looks like we have some other guys out as well. Now, Cincinnati, they've dropped 9 out of their last 10 straight up, dating back to last season. They're also just 2-6 against the number in their last 8 head-to-head matchups, taking on the Bills if you're into historical trends. Now, the Bills are plus 15 in point differential this year. They're also 4-1 against the spread in their last 5, dating back to last season. The Bills actually had a very good defense last year, although their record did not indicate that, and they're certainly carrying that over into this season. Now, total-wise, Buffalo 2-0 to the under thus far in the season. Meanwhile, Cincinnati on the other side, their offense is averaging just 18 points per contest. I'm going to lean Buffalo Bills -6 and the under 44 points in that game. And before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick timeout and welcome you to the show. Got some lines of personal leans out for NFL Week 3. But before we go ahead and get into some more of that, just want to quickly remind you to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. We do daily plays on that site, and we have a bunch of different memberships and packages beginning at just $1.99 per month. And we're 10-1-1 in our college football package thus far for the year. We're over 8 units thus far, and if you're $1,000 better, that's over $8,000 worth of profit just by subscribing to the college football package tier. That's just $14.99 a month. Once again, check me out on patreon.com/BrockPage. Link for that site is in the description section below. There's also plenty of free content there, including my current record. All right, let's go ahead and slide back with some more lines of personal leans. All starts Eastern Standard Time. And on deck, we've got the Falcons taking on the Colts. 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff in Indianapolis. The Colts are -2, total 46.5. We did see a half a point fade of Indy and movement downward on the total. The Colts open 2.5 down to -2. Total open 47.5 down to 46 and a hook. Indy's 1-1 straight up on the year, 2-0 against the number. Meanwhile, Atlanta on the other side, 1-1 on the year. They are 0-1 straight up away from home and 0-1 against the spread away from home as well. Their defense is allowing 24 points per contest on average. Now, Atlanta's 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 when traveling, dating back to last season, and they gave up a bunch of yards on Monday Night Football to a very banged-up Philadelphia team who was without Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Dallas Goedert. They were certainly banged up on the offensive side of things. Now, their defense gave up 28 points to Minnesota. So just think about that there, because Minnesota doesn't particularly have a fire-powered offense, although they have a ton of weapons. Now, Indy on the other side, they held Tennessee to just 17 points last week. They're 4-1 against the number in their last 5 head-to-head matchups with a member of the NFC East. Just keep in mind, if you're a fantasy player, Darius Leonard is questionable. He's currently in concussion protocol, and that was the leader in tackles last season and a big player in fantasy. Now, total-wise, Indy is averaging just 21 points per contest with regard to scoring. Meanwhile, Atlanta on the other side, 2-0 to the under thus far in the year. So I'm going to go ahead and lean Indianapolis -2 and the under 46.5 in that game. Next matchup, Ravens, Chiefs, 1 o'clock Kansas City. The Chiefs are -7, total 55. We saw a half a point move toward Kansas City and movement upward on the total. The Chiefs open 6.5 up to -7. Total open 54.5 up to 55. 51% are leaning Baltimore, 61% shaded toward the over. Right now the Ravens are plus 250 on the money line. Baltimore's 1-1 against the number. They did fail to cover against Arizona. Meanwhile, Kansas City on the other side, 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the number, 2-0 straight up, and against the spread, taking on the AFC this year. Kansas City's averaging 34 points per contest. They shut out Oakland for 3 quarters of football last week. Meanwhile, Baltimore on the other side, failing to cover in 2 out of their last 6, dating back to last season. They're also 1-1 against the number in their last 2 non-divisional opponents. Total-wise, Kansas City, 70% to the over in their last 10. Baltimore, 5-2 to the over in their last 7, taking on the AFC. I'm going to lean Kansas City -7 and the over 55 points in that game. Next matchup, Raiders, Vikings, 1 o'clock Minnesota. The Vikings are -8, total 43. We saw a half a point move upward on the spread and movement downward on the total. Minnesota opened 7.5 up to -8. Total opened 43.5 down to 43. 56% are leaning Minnesota, 64% shaded toward the over. Right now, Oakland's plus 310 on the money line. The Raiders are 1-1 on the year. This is their third straight game as the underdog. Their offense is averaging just 17 points per contest. Meanwhile, Minnesota 1-1 on the year. They are 1-0 straight up at home and 1-0 against the spread at home. Their defense is allowing just 16 points per contest. Now, Oakland's pretty banged up right now. Richie Incognito is obviously suspended, so he can't play. We have Dwayne Harris questionable with an ankle. Corey Liuget questionable with a knee. J.J. Nelson is also listed as questionable as well. The Raiders are just 1-10 straight up in their last 11 when traveling. Certainly not preparing on the road very well under John Gruden. They're also 0-6 straight up in their last 6 matchups with a member of the NFC North. Now, Minnesota on the other side, their offense is averaging 22 points per contest. They're 4-1 against the spread in their last 5, taking on the AFC West. They match up a lot better defensively, in my opinion. Now, total-wise, both teams 2-0 to the under on the year, 4-0 to the under combined. I'm going to lean Minnesota -8 and the under 43 in that game. Next matchup, Broncos, Packers, 1 o'clock, Green Bay. The Packers are -8, total 42.5. Not a whole lot of movement on the spread. Pretty good two-way action there. We did see movement downward on the total, though. Once again, the Packers open and remain -8. Total open 43.5, down to 42 and a hook. 60% are leaning Packers, 58% shaded toward the under. Right now, Denver is plus 300 on the money line. The Broncos are 1-1 against the spread. They covered a 3-point spread taking on the Bears last week. Should have beat them outright, honestly. They held Chicago to just 16 points in that game. Meanwhile, on the other side, Green Bay, they're winning by just an average of 5 points per contest this year. And seems to still be a little bit of a disconnect between Aaron Rodgers and his head coach. This Green Bay offense averaging just 15 points per contest. We also have Equanimus St. Brown, if that's how you say it. He's on injured reserve. We also have Marquez Valdez-Scantling questionable and Shepard questionable with a hammy. Now, Denver on the other side, their defense is allowing 20 points per contest. Not too bad there. They lost 2 one-possession games. They really were right there. Could have gone either way. And they're losing by just 5 points on average thus far in the year. So pretty high number here. Green Bay laying this 8-point number. Now, total-wise, both teams 2-0 to the under thus far in the year, which means they're a combined 4-0 to the under between the two of them. I'm going to lean Denver plus 8 in the under 42.5 in that game. Next matchup, Jets, Patriots, 1 o'clock, New England. The Patriots are -23, total 43.5. We did see a half a point move toward New England and movement downward on the total. The Patriots open 22.5 up to -23. Total open 45 and a hook down to 43.5. 70% are leaning New England, 71% shaded toward the under. Right now the Jets are plus 1750 on the money line. New York's 0-2 on the year, failing to cover in both of those games. They're also 0-2 ATS taking on the AFC. Now, the Pats on the other side, they're 2-0 in the year, 2-0 against the number, 2-0 against the spread, taking on the AFC. This New England offense is averaging 38 points per contest. They're 6-0 against the number in their last 6, dating back to last season. They're also a perfect 17-0 straight up in their last 17 in Foxborough, dating back the past couple of seasons. Now, their defense has given up just 3 points this year. 3 points all year. Think about that. Now, the Jets on the other side, they have Luke Falk starting as their quarterback, young quarterback out of Washington State. Demaryius Thomas is out with a knee. C.J. Mosley questionable with a groin. Trevor Siemian is out for the season with a shattered foot. Also, Sam Darnold has typhoid. Now, Sam Darnold's out. He's got mono. Jordan Jenkins out. Williams is out, questionable with an ankle. So Jets really, really banged up. The Jets injury report literally looks like a long scroll of just different names. Now, total-wise, New York is 2-0 to the under in their 2 games this year. Meanwhile, New England, believe it or not, 2-0 to the under in their contests as well. That's a combined 4-0 to the under between both of these squads. I'm going to lean New England -23 and the under 43.5 in that game. Next matchup, Miami, Dallas, 1 o'clock Dallas. The Cowboys are minus 21.5, total 47. We did see a half a point move upward with regard to the spread. We also saw movement downward on the total. Dallas open 21 up to 21.5. Total open 47.5 down to 47. 67% are leaning Dallas, 62% shaded toward the under. Right now, Miami's plus 1,400 on the money line. They did lose Minkah Fitzpatrick in a trade this week. They're also 0-2 straight up on the year, 0-2 against the number, 0-2 straight up, taking on the AFC. Not that that really matters in this case, but that's just the stats there. Now, on the other side, Dallas 2-0 straight up on the year, 2-0 against the number. Their offense is averaging 33 points per contest. Dallas has gone 2-0 straight up and against the spread in their division as well. Their defense is allowing just 19 points per contest. They scored over 31 points in each of their 2 games. Now, Miami, on the other side, they've scored 10 points all year. Their defense is allowing 51 points per contest on average, which is unheard of. That has to be some kind of historical record in the NFL. They failed to cover in their last 5 ball games dating back to last season. They're also 0-7 straight up in their last 7 when traveling. Rashad Jones is questionable with an ankle. Albert Wilson questionable with a calf. And when it comes to the total, Dallas is 2-0 to the over. They could very well just put this over themselves. I'm going to lean Dallas minus 21 and the over 47 in that game. Next matchup, Giants, Bucks, 405 Tampa Bay. The Bucks are minus 7, total 48. Not a whole lot of movement on the total, although we did see a little bit of movement upward with regard to the spread. Tampa Bay opened 6.5 up to minus 7. Total open and remains at 48. 54% are leaning Buccaneers, 68% shaded toward the under. Right now the Giants are plus 250 on the money line. Daniel Jones named the starter this morning for New York, getting his first career start this weekend. The Giants 0-2 straight up on the year, 0-2 against the number. Meanwhile, Tampa Bay 1-1 straight up, 1-1 against the number. They held Carolina to just 14 points last week. Now, this Giants defense is allowing 32 points per contest on average. They gave up 28 to Buffalo, and they failed to cover in 4 out of their last 5. We have Cody Latimer questionable in concussion protocol for New York. Sterling Shepard is questionable. He's also in concussion protocol. And Darius Slayton is questionable with a hammy. Now, the Bucs on the other side, really lackluster the past couple of seasons, although they've been pretty good against the number. They've successfully covered the number in 6 out of their last 9 ball games, dating back to last season. When it comes to the total, Tampa Bay 2-0 to the under thus far in the year. Their offense averaging just 18 points per contest, so don't expect a whole lot of scoring out of Tampa Bay. But I wouldn't expect a whole lot of scoring out of the Giants either. Their offense is averaging just 15 points per contest, and that's with Eli. So I'm not so certain that the rookie quarterback, Daniel Jones, will do much better. So I'm going to go ahead and lean Tampa Bay minus 7 and the under 48 in that game. Next matchup, Panthers, Cardinals, 405 Arizona. Now, some books have this game currently off the board with the status of Cam Newton. There are other books that do have a line here, so we'll go ahead and dive into them. Right now, I have Carolina listed at minus 2.5, and of course, I think that line is dependent upon Cam Newton actually making the start. So once again, Panthers minus 2.5, total 46 and a hook. Now, the Panthers did open minus 3. That moved down to 2.5. We also saw movement upward on the total as well. So once again, the Panthers open minus 3, down to 2.5. Total open 45 and a hook, up to 46.5. Like I said, a lot of books have this game currently off the board. Now, 54% of the consensus is leaning toward Arizona, 58% shaded toward the over. Right now, the Cardinals are plus 125 on the money line. They're 2-0 against the spread thus far in the year. They're also 2-0 ATS, taking on non-divisional opponents. Now, the Panthers on the other side, 0-2 straight up on the season. They failed to cover in those 2 games. They're also 0-2 straight up and against the spread, taking on members of the NFC. Like I said, Cam Newton is very questionable for this Sunday. I'm capping this game as if he's not going to play. Now, this Arizona offense, believe it or not, they're averaging 23 points per contest. They're relatively healthy as well. Not a lot of big names on that injury report. Now, Carolina on the other side, they failed to cover in 8 out of their last 10, dating back to last season. Their offense is averaging just 20 points per contest this year. Their defense is allowing 25 points per contest. They lost to Tampa Bay 20-14 last week. We also have Bruce Irvin questionable with a hammy, Rashawn Golden questionable with a groin, and Greg Little is in concussion protocol. Now, total-wise, Carolina 5-2 to the under in their last 7. Both teams went under in week 2, respectively. So I'm going to lean Arizona +3 and the under 46.5 in that game. Next matchup, Texans, Chargers, 425 Los Angeles. The Chargers are -3, total 48. 61% are leaning Houston, 62% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Texans are +155 on the money line. Houston's 1-1 straight up on the year, 1-1 against the spread as well. They covered their one game away from home as well. Meanwhile, the Chargers on the other side, they're 1-1 on the year, but they failed to cover in those 2 ball games. They're 0-2 ATS taking on non-divisional opponents. Now, the Chargers have Jatarius Brown questionable on the injury report with an ankle. Mike Davis is questionable with a hammy. And Michael Badgley, the kicker, is still questionable with a groin. Now, the Chargers, although they've had some pretty good success over the past couple of seasons, not all that great against the number. And as a matter of fact, they failed to cover in 5 out of their last 8, dating back to last season. Now, Houston on the other side, they're relatively healthy, and they have nothing but weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Although they didn't put up a whole lot of points last week, they always have the potential to put up 50. I mean, you just have nothing but weapons on that offensive side. Now, total-wise, both teams went under last week, and both offenses are averaging 20 points per contest. So I think it should stay under, although Houston always has the potential to just go absolutely berserk on the offensive side of things. I'm going to go ahead and lean Houston +3 and the under 48 in that game. Next matchup, Saints, Seahawks, 425 Seattle. The Seahawks are -4.5, total 44.5. 70% are leaning Seattle, 74% shaded toward the under. Right now, the Saints are +185 on the money line. New Orleans is 1-1 on the year, 0-2 against the spread. And, of course, Drew Brees is out indefinitely with that thumb. Now, Seattle on the other side, 2-0 straight up on the year, 2-0 straight up taking on non-divisional opponents. Seattle's averaging 25 points per contest. They've also successfully covered the number in 8 out of their last 9 Week 3 games. So going back 9 seasons, if you're into historical trends, this game certainly could be in your favor. Now, the Saints on the other side, their defense, they're averaging 28 points per game allowed. They're also 0-7 against the spread in their last 7 games, dating back to last year. That's a healthy Saints team. We have Sheldon Rankins questionable with an Achilles. Alex Anzalone, he's placed on IR with a shoulder. So that's a big part of that New Orleans defense that was very good against the run last year. Now, total-wise, New Orleans 8-3 to the under in their last 11. Total went under last week against Carolina. They only scored 9. I'm sorry, not Carolina. The LA Rams, where the Saints only scored 9 points with Teddy Bridgewater playing most of that game. He will be getting the start this week, so I'm going to purchase the hook, buy it down, and take Seattle -4 and the under 44.5 in that game. Next matchup, Steelers, Niners, 425 San Francisco. The Niners are -7, total 43. Not a whole lot of movement with regard to the spread, although we did see a 1.5 point move downward on the total. Of course, that directly related to the news that Big Ben is out. Looks like he's going to be getting Tommy John surgery, a surgery that is more indicative of a Major League Baseball pitcher. But regardless, Big Ben out for the season, and we saw the line move down because of that. So once again, the Niners are -7, total open 44.5, down to 43. 60% of the consensus is leaning toward the Niners, 67% shaded toward the over. Right now, Pittsburgh is +245 on the money line. The Steelers are 0-2 straight up on the year, 0-2 against the number. And like I said, Big Ben is out. The Niners on the other side, very much improved. 2-0 straight up on the year, 2-0 against the number. Their offense is averaging 36 points per contest. Now, San Francisco scored over 30 points in each of their first 2 games this year. They're also 2-0 straight up and against the spread, taking on a non-divisional opponent. Pittsburgh, on the other side, their defense is allowing 31 points per contest on average, and they are working with Mason Rudolph as the starting quarterback this week. Now, total-wise, both teams went over the total last week. San Francisco could very well put it over the total themselves. I'm going to lean San Francisco -7 and the over 43 in that game. Next matchup, Rams-Browns, 8:20 primetime game Sunday night. That one's going to take place in Cleveland. The Rams are -3, total 50.5. 71% are leaning Rams, 67% shaded toward the under. Right now, Cleveland's +135 on the money line. The Browns are 1-1 straight up on the year, 1-1 against the number. Their offense is averaging just 18 points per contest. That certainly won't be enough taking on this Rams explosive offense. They're 2-0 straight up on the year, 2-0 against the number. They are averaging 29 points per contest. Now, Cleveland has a slew of important injuries. Adarius Taylor is questionable with an ankle. Randall's questionable. He's in concussion protocol. Lamb is questionable with a knee. We also have Higgins on the injury report. He's questionable with a knee. David Njoku, he's in concussion protocol. He was upended last night on Monday Night Football and fell on his head and neck. Very ugly play there. And Dontrell Hilliard is questionable with concussion protocol there as well. So that's their special teamer and third-string running back. Cleveland just 1-6 straight up in their last 7, taking on the NFC West. The Rams on their side of things, they've been covering machines. They're 6-1 against the spread in their last 7, dating back to last year. They're also 1-0 against the number on the road this year. Of course, that one failure to cover came in the Super Bowl at the hands of the New England Patriots. Now, total-wise, Cleveland has a very good defense. Don't get me wrong. I know that I've been downplaying them in this review here, but they have a very solid, very good defense, and so does the Rams. So I don't see a whole lot of production out of this Cleveland offense, but they could contain the Rams to under 40 points. So with all that said and done, I'm going to lean LA Rams -3 and the under 50.5 in that game. And we're going to slide into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be the Monday night game. Bears taking on the Redskins, 8:15 Washington. The Bears are -4, total 41.5. We did see a half a point fade of Chicago and movement downward on the total. The Bears open 4.5, down to 4. Total open 42, down to 41 and a hook. 57% are leaning toward the Bears, 55% shaded toward the under. Right now, Washington is +170 on the money line. Now, Washington is 0-2 straight up on the year, but they are 1-1 against the number, and their offense is averaging 24 points per contest. Now, the Bears on the other side, they're 1-1 straight up on the year, should be 0-2, but they are 0-2 against the number thus far on the season, and they haven't scored more than 16 points in a game this year. Washington 7-1 straight up in their last 8 at home, taking on the Bears. If you're into historical trends, they're also 8-2 against the number in their last 10 head-to-head matchups with Chicago at any location. Washington, their offense scored over 21 points a game in each of their 2 games this season, although they're 0-2. Now, Chicago on the other side of things, their offense is averaging just 9 points per contest. They're 0-5 against the number in their last 5, taking on the Redskins. They're also 0-1 against the spread on the road this year and 1-9 against the spread in their last 10, taking on the NFC East. Really having a lot of trouble with that division. Now, total-wise, this Washington defense is allowing 32 points per contest. They're 2-0 to the over. So although this Chicago offense has been anemic, they might be able to score enough to get this one over the total. So with all that said and done, Chicago should win it, but I'm going to lean Washington +4 in the over 41.5 in that game. And we're going to go ahead and slide into our quick pick recap brought to you by patreon.com/BrockPage. We have Washington +4 over 41.5. We also have the Rams -3 under 50 and a hook. San Francisco -7 over 43. Seattle -4 under 44.5. Houston +3 under 48. Arizona +3 under 46 and a hook. Tampa Bay -7 under 48. Dallas -21 over 47. New England -23 under 43.5. Denver +8 under 42 and a hook. Minnesota -8 under 43. We also have Kansas City -7 over 55. Indianapolis -2 under 46 and a hook. Buffalo -6 under 44. Detroit +7 over 46.5. And last but certainly not least, we have Tennessee -2 and the under 39.5 in that game. All right, guys, that is going to do it for me. But before I get out of here, just want to quickly remind you once again to check me out on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage. We're 10-1-1 in our last 12 college football package. plays. And we also have plenty of other different memberships packages that you can subscribe to. And they begin at just $1.99 per month. There's also plenty of free content there as well, including my current record. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. Link for that site is in the description section below. But most importantly, I got to thank you for watching me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. Best of luck to you in week 3. Happy Tuesday to you. And as always, don't forget to check me out on patreon.com/BrockPage.